Good evening. Welcome to our daily class from Rabbi Nachman on Patreon. This question that Rabbi Nachman is raising in the 72nd Torah, God's evil inclination, it's like a question people are afraid to ask. You wouldn't want to think it, much less say the words that God has an evil inclination. But he writes it here. Now, of course, he expects us to look behind the words, look to the interpretation of those words, look to the great masters that came before that explain what such an idea really means. So we're holding in this long, small lettered paragraph, which is an addendum to the main text of this Torah. And the Torah has dealt with many levels of Yetzer Hara, evil inclination. Every person has a different one at his level. And there are some that are very physical, and there are some that are more refined, and there's some that are still more refined. And there are those that have a very refined evil inclination, and there are even great tzaddikim whose Yetzirah gets turned into an angel, a holy angel. So that's something I'd like to sign up for, because the Yetzirah, he's an insistent kind of guy. He's persevering. When we're asleep, when we're awake, he doesn't care. And he's smart, but he's evil, and evil means he's far from Hashem. But in his spark, we're going to find out tonight that even God has this aspect, what Rabbi Nachman is calling the Yetzirah, which are these powers of constriction in the highest realms of heaven, what are called the dinim. And dinim roughly translates as judgments, but they're really constrictions of his own light. See, because you have to have a vessel to hold the light. And what is the vessel made of? Well, it's made of constricted light. And we get that in the beginning of the Arizal, teaches that the original light couldn't hold God's light. And the vessels broke. But the vessels themselves were made of the original light. And as the light gets further from Hashem, the vessel is formed, and the wall, so to speak, of that light bulb gets a little thicker and a little thicker till it can hold something. And we have to spend a lot of time with the Otzrot Chaim and the Eitz Chaim to understand and to ingrain these ideas in us, so we can look at these Torahs and try to get something out of them without making some serious mistakes, because someone could walk away from this Torah making a very big mistake, that God has evil. God's good and evil. And no, God is not good, evil, God forbid. God is only good. But at the highest realms of heaven, he himself had to constrict himself in order to create the separation between man and God, and between kindness and justice and mercy and judgment. And so there has to be a separation in order for us to have individual consciousness and to come to know God from the place of the duality until we see the unity. Gam lamala, kivyochol, etzel Hashem yitbarach, b'chinat yetzirah, right? Also above, there is an aspect as if to say. Now, kivyochol, as if to say, is one of those little Talmudic terminologies that you really need to have down. Kivyochol, as if to say, is don't take this literally as the word sound. He goes on to tell us, Eitzel Hashem yitbarach b'chinat yetzirah, kamo shedarshu Chazal, as our sages taught. And Bereshit Rabbah, and he tells us over there, B'techila ala b'makshava livro et ha'olam b'midat hadin. In the beginning, God wanted to create the world with the measure of judgment and justice. Midat hadin, black and white, right and wrong, good and evil. Split it how you split it. It's a very clear duality. And God wanted to create the world that way. And that's what the Midrash tells us. And he tells us that God's, Nachman's Chidushim are like another level. He's telling God's idea to create the world from the measure of judgment was his Yetzer Hara. That he wanted it to be black and white and perfectly clear. He wasn't interested in this fuzzy world we live in, this gray world of part good and part evil. At the beginning, he wasn't. And Rabbi Nachman identifies that as God's Yetzer Hara. But afterwards, as if to say, the Yetzer Hara joined up, partnered, really, with the measure of mercy. Right? Because they were created in... Whoop! A moment of mercy. Okay, I see that we're technologically challenged this evening. We're going to get through this. That in the beginning, let's do it this way. We have many tools in our box. That in the beginning, when God wanted to create the world with judgment, because he saw the beauty of the clarity of right and wrong, truth and falsehood, and he wanted us to live at that level. But we're not him at that level. And so the midah of judgment and justice had to be measured and matched and paired with what we call the midah of rachamim, of mercy. Now, okay, so that kind of helps us, makes life a little better for the human race, that we have some mercy to deal with. That somebody's showing a little mercy here. Mercy on my kickstand, you know. You ever have a can where the bike keeps falling over? No, we got something going on like that tonight. I guess this is sensitive material, so the Yetzer Hara wants to get a piece of the action. We're going to work through that. Okay. So we've got two stages already in creation. God wanted to create the world with din, and he did. And then he saw that the world could not exist, could not endure, that man could not live in such a perfect, sublime, yes and no, right and wrong, good and bad existence. It was too hard for us at the level of perception that we were granted with. Okay, so he brought in the midah of mercy. The measure of mercy is very interesting. Rachamim in Hebrew, rachem, right? Reish chet mem. You could split up the letters in many different ways and produce new meanings. And those are the permutations of the letters and part of the holiness of the wonder called the Aleph Bet. And the Aleph Bet, the word rachem, also means rechem, it means the womb. And it also means reish, or head, ham, a warm head. Not a cold head, a warm head. And so each of these qualities is deeper than we think on the surface. When you get all the traits on the tree of life, chesed, Gavorah, tiferet, netzach, hod, yisod, each name has meanings woven into it that help us understand it better. Right? It's like your resume is not just one line, it's many lines of who you are. And so these wondrous traits that God created in order for us to exist and have a personality and have a connection to him and all creation, those are the sefirot, they have many, many meanings woven into their names. So it's really a pleasure and a joy and a blessing to take those names apart, especially in Hebrew. So rachamim is this idea of mercy, but it's also the idea of the heat of love balanced with the heat of judgment. That there has to be a balance between the two. And if there's no balance, well, either there's too much love, and we've seen that, you know, and there's not enough love, and we certainly know that as well. So let's go forward a little bit more. And he tells us that this Yetzer Hara of Hashem's, as if to say, this desire to create the world from perfect judgment, mizeh al koach tishtalshel nimshach koach lamata l'shaber et Yetzer Hara. Well, this original power, ishtalshel, means to spiral down. In other words, to contract, expand, contract, expand, contract, expand. That's how God took his infinity and created this world from many innumerable contractions and expansions. But each time he contracted and expanded, there was a thickening of the vessels, the thickening of the spirituality till it finally became physical. And when did it become physical? The first time, when Adam and Eve ate from the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. The duality itself, my friends, the duality of existence itself was an ingested idea. Originally, we did not have any problem seeing the oneness. The oneness was the reality in which we were created within the collective soul called Adam Kadmon, the first man. Adam Rishon is the human version of Adam Kadmon, because Adam Kadmon is really a cosmic version, includes all reality, not just this little planet with these little people. Okay? Now, so the contraction of the light is going to come down and expand and come down and extract and contract, and so too at each level until this is called the Ishtalshalut Olamot. You've heard that phrase perhaps. And from there, there's a power that's derived Lishaber Yetzirah, to break the Yetzirah, to break it. Interesting. What does that mean? Ki lule zot lo hayakoch lishaber Yetzirah, because if if God hadn't broken the Yetzirah in the beginning, we never could ourselves. We would have no hope in our fight with lust, with desires, with addictions, with all the things of this physical world. If God hadn't broken the original Midat Din, we would have no chance at all to break it. We wouldn't have a chance to even say no to evil if he hadn't broken it from the beginning. See, this is a beautiful thing when you hear it, that they understand why it says that God keeps the whole Torah, and he couldn't ask us to keep it if he didn't keep it himself. So he had to break his own Yetzirah in the beginning, this desire to create the world from Midat Hadin. And say, wait a minute, God, you're being a little tough on these folks. Let's ease up. Let's create some mercy. Okay, and this mercy is we're still living on that. And this is explained in the Gemara, Masechet Yoma, Shamru Sham, the rabbi says, Zohi Gavorah Gavorah. This is the Gavorah of his Gavorah. In other words, the extraction of God's power of contraction. See, the power of contraction means to say no. It means to make a vessel, blow a glass, if you will, to make a vessel, make a pot out of pottery. All those things are the act of Gavorah. Athletics is an act of Gavorah. You're breaking the cells of your muscles to make yourself stronger. And so too with almost all physical activity, there has to be an act of Gavorah. Even giving money to somebody, like charity, which is so important in Judaism, the act of giving money, we call it chesed, kindness, loving kindness. But the actual act of reaching in your pocket and pulling out a bill and giving it to somebody is an act of Gavorah, because you have to overcome something, your own resistance to giving, and your own resistance to losing out, as the left brain wants to make us believe that we're losing out when we give things away, but actually we're gaining much more. So that's this idea of the Gavorah, Gavorato. The might of his might, the power of his power, shekovesh et yitzro, that God himself conquered his own evil desire to create the world with perfect judgment, and not with the shituf, the partnership of mercy. And he had to break that. And that today is what we derive ultimately the power from, to say no. Just when we need to say no, and to say yes when we need to say yes. And to kovesh et yitzro, to say no, I'm not going to do that. I could do that right now, but I'm not going to do it. Over and over. This is the test in all phases and spheres of life. Shenotein erech apayim l'rashaim, and the ultimate one, you'll love this, The ultimate Gavorah Gavorato. Guess. Did you understand those words? I hope you didn't. Because it gives me pleasure to say them. The ultimate level of God's Gavorah, his might, is to show patience for evil people. Patience for people who sin. That's the ultimate Gavorah of God's Gavorah. And when you can have patience with people who fail and fall and sin over and over, like a judge in some court in some dangerous neighborhood, that's a divine act. Now, it's not a divine act to set murderers free on the streets. And it's not a divine act to show leniency when it's not called for. However, look where we've gone. Look where we've come to. This understanding of Hashem is profound that Rabbi Nachman expels out for us. Shema she'Hashem yitbarach kovesh midat hadin u'ma'arich hapo, that God himself conquers his own desire to crush the evil. He wants to crush the evil. However, u'ma'arich hapayim, he still brings on what's called the lengthened face. Ma'arich hapayim literally means that. The lengthened face. In other words, here it goes again. Another stolen tire. I used to live in Manhattan, people would wake up and come down to your car in the morning, there's tires missing, I don't think I was laughing as much as I am now, but it seems funny 30 years ago in memory. However, this trait is a divine trait. This is where we get the power to conquer our desires and conquer the evil inside us, and also to help us have mercy and patience with people who are not holding at a level that we would consider to be basic human dignity, that we don't do certain things and we do other things, I once saw a woman step in front of an old woman to get in the door of a store first. Like, no big deal, right? But something about it bothered me, because this old lady was kind of working her way up to the door. And, what am I going to, because I'm young and fast, I can jump in front of them instead of help them or hold the door open. I miss a divine moment of mercy and patience because I want to be first into Walmart, Oy. So, these little things, they're not little in the spiritual realm. They're little in this upside down place that we live in. Okay, so don't discount those moments and don't discount your patience. And it doesn't mean you're a fool for the evil people that are out there trying to swindle the world, or fool us with their words, or fool us with their movies, or fool us with their calculations. No, we have to be smart. We have to investigate all facts and all matters. However, it doesn't mean I hate everybody because I don't trust them. And I get a conspiratorial mind because there are people that create conspiracy theories. And then there are people there are conspiracies out there. Sometimes people get together and do things because it's the best way to succeed, especially when it's on the wrong side of the law. But that doesn't mean I want that to be my mode of operation. The way I think and look at the world, and everybody's cheating everybody, and everybody's still, stealing, and we can't live that way because there are billions of good people out there. What we need to do is just simply refine our vision to be able to see behind the stories, to see behind the words, to have a pure heart. Rabbi Nachman says, once your heart is pure, you can read somebody else's mind. He says that mifarash, directly, in Sichot Oran, that you can read somebody else's mind when your mind is pure. Why not? Because we're all on a living internet, a living network of soul. That's what Shekhinah is. And so when our filters are clean, and our minds are pure and our hearts are pure, then you'll catch yourself thinking what somebody else is thinking. And they won't even know it. And you won't even know it. But if you start to pay attention, you will, and you'll understand why this tzaddik is so great to teach us these things. Okay? And so Hashem conquers his own desire to do pure judgment, pure justice. It says, wait. Let's adjourn for today. Go eat some lunch. We'll come back in the afternoon. We'll hear more witnesses. We'll listen to the jury for the 30th time. Let's go slow when we're dealing with human life. Because mercy is a divine characteristic. And we don't want to give up our chance to be merciful. Okay. And so when God does crush his own desire for midat hadin, and he breaks the Yetzirah, his own Yetzirah, the Zohar goes on to tell us in several places, Shemidat din hu shorish bechinat Yetzirah, that the Yetzirah, his place in the upper worlds, is this power of constriction, the power to put the fist on you, the power to grab you when you're not expecting it, the power to make you run when you shouldn't, the power to make you sit down when you should get up and walk. All these come from this constriction. It's usually, my friends, it's usually in the heart. It's usually when I don't want to give, when I don't want to talk to somebody that needs to talk to me, when I don't want to answer somebody because I don't have I'm in a bad space, and I can't stop to show somebody else a decent respect of saying good morning. So, it starts there, way up high in the sky, right? In the spiritual, non-physical planes. The midat hadin, the measure of mercy, is the root where the evil inclination gets his power. And our job is to sit here and break it. And sometimes he'll win, and we'll come back for the 15th round and the 25th round and the 35,000th round, because we're not quitters. Jews are not quitters. We couldn't be here if we were. We will not surrender to the evil inclination. Now, sometimes we have to surrender situations, whether it's politics or it's warfare or it's finances, but the Torah gives those guidelines too, when we're supposed to surrender and when we're not supposed to. And that's actually a very good class that we should put together. I'm going to make a note of that, a class about when to surrender. Because when you get that down, you know when not to. And then you get more clarity, and it's a beautiful thing. So you see, you folks are inspiring me as we go. And this is how it works. This is why the Torah is a Torah of life, because it's constantly feeding you new ideas. And I'm sure that you're sitting out there listening to the Rebbe Nachman's words over here, and it's going to give you new ideas. That the power of evil, what we call the evil inclination, it's an inclination. It's a tendency to constrict that comes to judge. That's why our mind always wants to judge first, and then after we say, no, I can't judge that person that way. It's not fair. That's called mishatev rachamim, to partner mercy with our judgment. Say, wait a second. We don't see this picture clear enough yet. And that's why the masters take their time. That's why a good judge takes his time. And that's why good parents also take their time when they make judgments with their children, whatever it might be, whatever level. And even if your children are 30 years old and you're still dealing with those issues, we still need to take our time. Because in that moment of time, we can sweeten the urge to judge with mercy and come down with something pure that approaches the truth of the way it's supposed to be. So we're going to stop there for tonight. We're heading off to Hebron. Going to learn a little kabbalah there in the shadow of the patriarchs. I invite you to come to Eretz Yisrael. I'll take you personally to the Ma'arat Machpelah at midnight, 1 a.m., and you'll see why we're here and what we do, and why it's meaningful. Because you've never had a Thursday night like Thursday night with the sages, with the Avraham and Yitzhak and Yaakov, Sarah, Rachel, Rivka, all there enjoying, the Torah and the holiness that is coming to you from your work. Isn't just for you. It's for the entire world, starting with your family, starting with your community and your friends. So we should all be part of this system, this amazing system of bringing God into this world. And we will look for you again tomorrow. We'll have some Zohar Erev Shabbat, and then Motzi Shabbat we have Saturday night Zohar, which hopefully will have something a little spicy to offer up. So we look forward to seeing you all, and God bless you. Shabbat Shalom.